Hi
Yep.
everyone, my name is Bridget. I am here from RareX to talk to you guys a little bit about what the data collection program is at RareX and how you can enroll and what it looks like once you've enrolled in RareX. So what is RareX? RareX is a program of global genes that was created to accelerate rare disease research and treatments by removing barriers. It is a platform to collect, connect, and share rare disease data. This slide shows you about what the patient journey looks like in the DCP. So we often call the data collection program the DCP. You'll hear that term often. So the very first thing you do, you'll come to us from your patient community. You'll visit the community page that is specifically built out for your community, which I'll show you on the next slide. And from there, you'll be able to enroll in the DCP. Once you enroll or start the enrollment process, there's something we call the mandatory workflow, which is 3 steps that you have to go through the very first time you sign up. And then you won't have to go through this all the other times unless you'd like to change your preferences. So that'll be the matrix terms of use, the consent and data sharing preferences, and then the head-to-toe survey. And I'll talk a little bit more about all of those things. But once you do all of those things, you'll get to the patient dashboard where you'll see a variety of surveys that you can take. All right, so like I mentioned, your community will have its own community page on the RareX website. So this is your community page. The first time you go to sign up, you'll click this red Get Started button. And then this is just a good page to bookmark to use the login button anytime you want to come back and log into the DCP. After you click that red Get Started button, this is what you're going to see. So this is the sign up page. You'll put your name, email address, consent that you're 18 years of age, and acknowledge that you're in the US, or that if you're not in the US, that you understand that your data that you're submitting will be stored in the US, because RareX is based in the US. You'll then select how you want to enroll in RareX. You can select more than one option, but I'm going to go over a little bit what these mean. So if you are a caregiver and you are enrolling your child or your patient that you care for, you're going to want to select this caregiver option only, and you'll be able to add a patient to your account at a later step. If you yourself are a patient and you're going to be entering stuff about yourself, you can select this patient option right here. You can select both if you yourself are a patient and you also are caring for a patient. And we also have the opportunity to add lost loved ones to the account. Once you do that, you'll get to the sign-in page. I'd like to call out that these documents are always linked at the bottom here. We have the privacy policy, which is the RareX privacy policy, and the terms of use, which is for the Matrix, which is the software that the platform is hosted on. These documents will always be here on the login page. So now we've logged in for the first time, and we've been pushed into what I mentioned that was called the mandatory workflow. So there's going to be some steps we have to go through here since we're signing up for the first time. The very first step is going to be agreeing to these matrix terms of use. So like I said, Matrix is the software that the data collection platform of the DCP is hosted on. So these are the technology terms. Once you accept those, you'll be pushed into the RareX consent. So this is 8 pages of question and answer to ensure that you understand what you're signing up for. All of these blue Learn More buttons drop down and show more information. You'll check while you're enrolling in RareX that maybe you're a patient yourself or that you are a caregiver, and answer some preferences. And then you're going to sign the consent. I do want to call out that if you have enrolled as a caregiver at this point and are going to add a patient later, this first consent is about yourself as the caregiver. So since I've enrolled as a caregiver, I'm going to sign my name on this consent, Bridget. And then when I go to add a patient later, I'll consent on their behalf later. Once I've consented, I'm going to be put in the demographic info section. Again, this is still about me as a caregiver if I've enrolled that way. You can see on the left-hand side here that I'm working under the caregiver participant. So the consent was for me. The general and demographic information will still be about me, the caregiver. So that'll all be my birthday, etc. There's some additional questions here. I want to note that all of the questions have the prefer not to answer button if you'd like to select that. And then we'll be placed on the dashboard. So now we're on what we call the caregiver dashboard. You can see up here, I'm logged in as Bridget, the caregiver. And basically, so far, I have no patients on my account. So now that I've enrolled myself as the caregiver, done my consent, done my gen info, I want to add the patient to my account. So I'm going to click this add patient button here. If you have multiple patients, you'll be able to add multiple patients to your account. So it's going to put us back into the consent. But like I mentioned, this time we'll be consenting on behalf of our patient. It's also going to put us back into the gen info section. And now you'll see a new question where you can select your rare disease community. Telomere biology disorders will be listed here, and this is what will link you back to the community on the back end with the data. So it's very important to select that here. We also have the opportunity to add other or unsure, and it'll give you a free text box if you'd like to add other things, and you can select more than one thing here. Okay, the next step we'll be pushed into is the data sharing preferences. So this is where you get to decide and tell RareX how you want your data to be shared. You are the owner of your data. RareX doesn't own your data, and Team Telomere doesn't own your data. You tell us how we can, how your data can be used when researchers ask for it. So the very first option here is general research. This is the most broad. This means that your data can be used for research for health, medical, biomedical, but also other kinds of things that may include research on age, race, ethnicity, research on just how certain surveys or study questions work, or other things. You can also say, no, I'd like my data to just be used for health, medical, biomedical research, and that would be selecting this option here. There's two additional limits you can place on your data. One is that you can say, I want my data to be used only for non-commercial purposes. And the other is you can say only research that has been approved by an institutional review board or an IRB. So again, these are limits on your data, and it is shrinking the pool of who can access your data. They are limits that you are welcome to place, and these preferences can be updated at any time. Right. Next, in the data sharing agreement, you're going to get to this question about patient community connections. So when it says contact information, we are referring to name and email address only. First name, last name, and email address. This question is going to ask if you are okay with RareX or you want RareX to share your name and email with the patient advocacy group, so Team Telomere, that supports your diagnosis. If you select yes here, they will receive your name and email on a sheet that has that. It will not be tied to your data or survey answers in any way. It will only say your first name, last name, and email address. If you say no, your name would not appear on this list at all. It'll also ask if you want to include your data and summaries on the dashboard. So Team Telomere leaders also have access to what we call the data dashboard, where they can see summary aggregate data about the community as a whole. This would say things like, you have 20 participants and 4 have logged in the past 10 days, or you have 30 participants and 8 are based in the United States. Things like that, that's just the summary data. I would never talk about you individually as a data point. And you can say, yes, you can include me in that summary data, or no, please leave me out of that. These preferences can also be updated at any time. All right. So you can see we're working through this patient mandatory workflow now. We've done the consent, we've done the general information, we're working through data sharing, and it's going to ask about genetic testing. You can say yes, the patient has had a genetic test, and you can upload a copy of that. You can also say no, and you would still be able to upload your report later if that was something you wanted to do. Okay, the very last step that it's going to kick us in the mandatory workflow is what we call the head to toe survey. So the head to toe survey goes from your head to your toe and asks very broad questions about symptom domains or categories. If you answer yes or unsure to having a problem in that domain, it will give you a level 2 survey or an additional survey to answer about that thing. So for example, this person has said yes, they have issues with their head, face, and neck. And so when they go to their dashboard, they're going to see that they have a new survey about head, face, and neck. If they had said no, that other survey would never appear on their dashboard. All right, so now we've completed the mandatory workflow and we've landed on the dashboard. And you can see here, I'm logged in as a caregiver, Bridget, but now I can see I'm viewing a patient. So you always want to look here at the patient you're viewing. That's who you're answering surveys about. If you have more than one patient, you'll be able to toggle between, and you always want to check this viewing. This is what the dashboard looks like once you've created your account. So these level 2 surveys are what I mentioned from the head to toe. So for this person, they said yes to having issues with behavior, bone cartilage connective, brain nervous, and eyes and vision. Had they said no, I don't have issues with my eyes and vision in the head to toe, they wouldn't see this survey here. You can start surveys and X out of them and they will save, and you'll also be able to go back and continue them if you don't finish. They have an estimated time to complete next to all of the surveys. Here's a look at what one of those level 2 survey looks like inside. So this person has said, yes, I have issues with my eyes and vision. The level 2 survey now is going to ask about what specific issues with your eyes and vision. So it's going to go down a list here with specific symptoms, and you'll mark if you see that symptom and when it first appeared. There'll be a free text box at the bottom of all the level 2 surveys to add anything that you feel like wasn't covered in the survey that you want to address. All right. There's one other survey I want to call out on the dashboard that is super important for communities and researchers really like to see data from. It's called the diagnosis survey. The diagnosis survey will allow you to indicate any sub-diagnosis you have within your disease community. So this is very important for researchers to further narrow down what kind of specific condition you have within telomere biology disorders. You'll be able to indicate that here on this survey. And it'll also ask more questions about genetic testing, newborn screening, and any family history that you have too. So also a very, very important area to include family history information. All right, I want to call out, I did mention that if you don't upload your genetic report in the beginning, and you can still do it later. So you would do that by visiting this Documents tab on the left-hand side and uploading your report. It'll look like this. And then you'll see that genetic report here. You can do that at any time. All right, once you complete surveys, they'll move over to this completed tab. You can click on the 3 dots here on the side to view your completed surveys, retake them, or email them to yourself. When you retake a survey, it's not overriding any old data. It'll keep both. So we're collecting that longitudinal data. For example, you can see that this person did the health and development survey on both June 28th and again on August 16th, and both are kept there. So both are in the record of the longitudinal data. So it's very important to come in and update your head to toe survey as symptoms change so that we can see progression of the disease. All right, this is our support email. This is the best place to go to if you have any questions about the RareX platform in general, any technical difficulties or technical questions, or any content questions or how do I do this questions. Anything can go to this RareX support at Global Genes email address, and that is the best place to reach us. And if there are any specific questions that you guys want me to cover, I can feel free to throw that in too.
How long do you think it takes to fill out the initial head to toe survey?
The head to toe survey itself is a pretty quick part of the mandatory workflow, probably less than 10 minutes because it's just yes, no questions.
Anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it. It's a little bit longer to sit down and do the whole consenting, but it's very, bite-sized. The head to toe is less than 10 minutes and very easy yes, no. And you could probably sit down and do the whole enrollment process in a half an hour or so. Any others?
I don't have any other questions.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm good.
Perfect.
That was a good presentation.
Thank you. Yeah,